Hey, good morning. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the show. I'm joined once again, and more frequently, by my man Kyle Klingman, out of Cedar Falls, Iowa. How's everything in Cedar Falls this morning, Kyle?
It's going great. We had a very nice conversation about the difference between wrestling in Texas and Iowa before we got on. We feel like Texas is a untapped gold mine, isn't it?
It is, and maybe one day you're going to come down here and start a club?
Yep, I'm going to. That's the plan right now. It's a little underground right now. I didn't want this to be the reveal, but you did. So it's going to be in Austin, Texas. I'm going to have Mark Bader as my primary coach. So if you believe that, then we got some problems.
Hey, come on now. All right, but yeah, that's probably won't happen. Never know, anything's possible, but we'll table it and bring it back for another day. Let's bring on our guest, 2021 Olympian, 57 kilos men's freestyle, Thomas Gilman. How you doing this morning, Thomas?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you guys?
Man, I'm fantastic. I appreciate that. And I mean, yeah, you came out, you went through the Olympic trials, made it to the finals, best 2 out of 3 you won. Would you say, did you feel like you came out of nowhere that weekend?
I was just going to make that comment. I think looking back, I'm trying to figure out where I was, because if I came out of nowhere, I'm not sure where I was at. But, yeah, that caught me a little off guard, but I don't think so. I mean, I've been around. I'm not the newest joke.
Yeah, of course.
Object. Yeah, I know.
Okay, to that point, right? And for anybody who doesn't know, the guy at the Zoom interview asked you that, and then he followed it up with, "Well, I just meant nobody's ever heard of you." And I was like, he doubled down. What's going on? But
yeah.
But one thing you did say in that, you were like, oh, maybe I'm not people like something shiny and new, and I'm not shiny and new. Maybe that's why people don't like me. Do you get I think I like you, and I'm not just saying that. Do you feel like people don't like you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's split down the middle. I think that there aren't a lot of people in the middle. So they either love me or they hate me, kind of cheesy anymore with you guys putting out that documentary. But I think there are a lot of people out there that like me, and I think there are a lot of people that like me that don't really admit it. But I also believe there are a lot of people that really don't like me. Especially people in Iowa right now.
All right. How do you feel about I don't know, people in Iowa that don't like you?
So what? I mean, I still like them.
Okay.
It's their problem. So
sure. All right.
It's whatever.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Enough of the shenanigans. When I want to get to some real questions here, and speaking of like the Olympics, right? You're qualified, and you'll be going this summer to Tokyo. Do you remember your first time like watching the Olympics on TV or coming across the Olympics? Well, I don't know, it was 96, 2000, after that or before that. But like, who was wrestling? Who caught your eye? Whether it was you had already started competing yourself or it was just on TV and you saw it.
Yeah, I don't know my first vivid memory of the Olympics. I just know when I started wrestling, I heard of the Olympics, and that's what I want to do. I realized there's the pinnacle of the sport, and to be an Olympic champion. So I want to be an Olympic champion, and I've said it in other interviews. But at the time, I had no idea what the Olympics were necessarily. I want to be an Olympic champion, freestyle wrestling, Greco wrestling, and folk style wrestling. So that's how early on I wanted to be an Olympic champion, because I didn't even realize that folk style wasn't even in the Olympics. But I think my first vivid memory, I mean, I remember Coach Kale wrestling in 2004 in Athens and Stephen Abbas. But my first like real vivid memory of like watching the games on TV and being like, okay, that's doable. I can do that. Was watching Henry Cejudo in 2008 because I think he was young, the youngest to do it at the time, and I was like, he's not really that much older than I am, and that's kind of where I want to be. And he kind of showed that it's doable right now. So that was probably my first most vivid memory, and just and I kind of got on this kick of watching Henry and the way he competed and all that, and it's kind of my first like real vivid memory, and just realizing that it's doable like sooner than people think. Because I think when you're at a certain age, you think it's off in the future. When you're 30 or 25, I guess I'm 25, but I think he was 19, and Kyle was 18 when he won. So I was like, it's coming up. Like I can do it. So I kind of put a little more pressure on myself to get better faster and to get the job done because it's within arm's reach.
Did it? I mean, when did it seem doable, and then when did it seem possible? If that makes sense, right? It's like, oh, there's something that it's distant, or maybe not that distant, but I can do. When did it just seem like realistic, I guess, or did it seem realistic at the time?
I think it seemed realistic at the time, just because I tend to be a little bit delusional. So I was a young kid, and you have high aspirations, and you think the world of yourself, and you think they're the best thing since sliced bread. So I thought it was doable in 2012. I was like, I'm gonna do it in 2012. I'm gonna graduate high school and go to the Olympics. And at the time, I was not ready. Obviously, I didn't even try to qualify for the Olympic trials. I don't even know if I knew how to at that time. But just coming to college and then training with Metcalf and Ramos and those guys, and Ramos making world teams. And at the time, Ramos was still whooping up on me. But I was always like right there with him, exchange takedowns or be in matches with him. And he's going to worlds and making world teams. So I was like, well, this is more than doable. And I was on junior teams, and they got bronze at the juniors, and seeing guys transition from juniors to seniors like pretty easily. Obviously like Kyle Snyder, he went from juniors and then the next year wrestling, at the worlds and winning. And so it was definitely, I was like, all right, well, this is doable. And then obviously training with Dan Dennis and him making the Olympic team. And the Olympics are, for whatever reason, just kind of a bigger deal. Obviously it's only every 4 years, and we go down from 10 to 6 weights. But him making that team, I was like, dang, I can beat Dennis. Even though most of the time he's beating me, but I can beat that guy, and I've beaten this guy, and they're in this tournament. And at that time, I didn't even qualify for the trials because I didn't go to the Open. I obviously got runner-up at the Nationals that year. But then, it was all kind of, uphill from there, or downhill. I'm not sure which way. But then I made the world team in 2017, and then 2018, and then 2019 I didn't, but I was in the finals of Final X. Not that that's an accomplishment, but then I'm like, heck, it's the Olympic year. It's my time. It's my team and my goal. So I just got to go do it.
Sure. In 2012, you thought you could, good enough to make the Olympics or whatever, but you didn't. But at some point, I don't know. I know you wrestled in 14, I believe, in the junior worlds. Maybe you made a cadet or junior team before that. But when did you first wrestle internationally? Whether it was a junior cadet world or whether it was some tournament during the year?
The first time I wrestled internationally was 2011 Cadet World Championships. And I won one match. I wrestled Uzbek, and then next match I dropped to a Georgian. So that was my first international experience, and that was fun. I mean, it was an eye opener. You wrestling. I was just still a boy at the time. And you wrestling these guys. They're cadets, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll say they're cadets, but these foreigners, they mature at a different rate than we Americans do because they live a harder lifestyle. And you can say, well, maybe they're not really cadets and whatever, but I'll say they're cadets. But it was an eye opener. Like, I got a long way to go. Cadets, and these guys are, big and strong and manly. So it was an eye opener. It's just a different world, wrestling with international guys. But the more you mature and the older you get, and the better perspective you get, you realize that they're no different. They're still human beings. You just go out there and just take them down.
Aside from maybe they're bigger, stronger, mature, faster, or have doctored materials, what do you remember about actually getting your hands on somebody and vice versa, right? And there's Americans fit within this box basically, even though there's a lot of different styles, but there's like a whole different way of that the international wrestlers probably feel, I guess would be the right word. Can you describe what that was like?
Yeah, it's kind of cliche, but they got an elusive feel, whereas in America, we're used to pretty much just straight up wrestling is how I would say it, hand fighting, fight for position, but they're not afraid to give up a position to get something else. They're a little more relaxed in the ties. They're funkier when you get to their legs. They can wrestle through all positions a little bit better than we as Americans, for the most part. There's some Americans that are very, very good at wrestling through all positions, but it was an eye opener for me because I'm going out there, I'm grabbing these guys, and they're not really tying back up. They're kind of real loose in their feel, and then all of a sudden they explode. They relax and they explode. And I wasn't really used to that. I was used to kind of a steady kind of grind where they wrestle more in spurts and kind of conserve energy then go kind of thing. So it was definitely a different feel in that sense, and just their tactics are different. They've been wrestling freestyle their whole lives, so their mat awareness was better at the time. I was just a cadet, kind of just wrestling folk style all the time, and just with the push outs and different parterre positions. That they're at the time they're way more savvy in those positions. So it was a good learning experience, just realizing like, hey, this is a different animal, a different ball game. You got to not only get better at your technique and your strength and stuff like that, but also just your mat savviness and mat awareness and freestyle awareness.
What's the best way for a 15 or 16-year-old to prepare for that? Because at the time, you or whoever I'm talking about, right, is wrestling these foreigners, and they feel all the things and realize all the things you just described. Yet you're going to come back to the States, or they're going to come back to the States and compete for high school tournaments and go to Fargo and try to win NCAAs and everything else, where you're wrestling against Americans, but still need to figure out the other side where you're preparing for this weird feel. Given what you know now, what would be the best way to, I guess, approach both?
I think that it just comes down to just philosophy and just do what you do best and do it better than that guy. And, at the time I was a cadet, you kind of get out there and you feel the guy and you're kind of maybe trying to play his game because you're just not sure maybe of yourself yet. So just no matter what your style is or what that guy's style is, just going out there and just doing what you do. And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Just do it better and harder than that guy. But also, I think we're really on a good trajectory in this country because, some of these young guys coming up are really good, and they got really good coaches. Just this area, for example, you got M2 Training Center, and, David will go to practice and we'll work on, certain things or certain positions, and then he's going to coach these kids, and they're working on the same things. So these kids are developing at a faster and better rate than I was, at that age. Just because you got a world champion coaching you, and he's bringing those feels not only from our college program and Nittany Lion program, but also the foreign maybe tactics and making these kids aware of it. So I think these kids are just in a better position, and that's not an excuse for me. It's just it's a good thing for these young kids. They have the resources that they have. It's just amazing, and they're getting better really fast at a young age. So I don't think that I have any real good advice for these young kids because some of them are better than I am, and I'm on the Olympic team. So technically, I would say, but just doing what you do best. Go out there and do you and wrestle hard and don't fall into their game. Don't play the rope-a-dope because that's what they want to do.
Sure. Klingman, you got a question?
I do. Brad Hildebrandt is someone that has influenced you. What kind of conversations did he have with you about getting to the next level, World Olympic Games and beyond?
He just kind of instilled just like self-confidence in me, just discipline first off, and then self-confidence. Because he kind of explained to me, at an early age, like what you're doing now, is good, but if you want to get to that next level, or the difference between getting to where you're at and where you want to be is going to take a higher level of discipline. And that was like the big thing. So the higher level, like when you're young, you can get away with a lot of things. A lot of things in nutrition, and you're young, so you can put things in your body, like eat bad, and it doesn't really affect you just because you're young and your metabolism is good. But the older you get, your body changes, and so does the competition. And so the higher level you get, you just got to be more disciplined and do not necessarily more, but just doing more of the right things and eliminate some of those bad habits the older you get and the higher level you get. So Brad, he was not only like a good coach and mentor to me, but like a father figure. So just instilling this good mentality and good mindset and just the discipline and discipline is what's going to win the day, especially in these higher levels.
You spoke of, getting rid of bad habits as you get older. Can you give any examples of bad habits, either from high school or college or beyond, that you've adjusted to and changed in some way?
Yeah, definitely the biggest thing that comes to my mind is nutrition. So like I said, when I was younger, I could eat anything and I could still perform at a high level. But the older I got, the more I realized, hey, I need to start changing things, start eating better. And when I was in college, I started to figure it out pretty early on and kind of adjusted a little bit. But I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew, like, okay, vegetables are good for you. Leafy greens are good for you. Eating your proteins, well-balanced diet is good. Candy's probably not good. Soda's not good for you, so don't eat or drink that. So it's very, I'd say, fundamental. And then since coming here to Penn State, I've really, I wouldn't say changed a lot as far as my nutrition, just like dialed it in, like more of a scientific approach. So that's really, really helped me just feeling good in that sense. And another thing is in my training, I would never give myself time to kind of bounce back or recover. I didn't really believe in burnout. Burnout was not a thing. And I don't necessarily think I believe in burnout, but there's definitely a point where you're training too much or too hard and you got to kind of pull it back a little bit to let your body recover. Because you can train at 80% all you want, but you're still only getting 80% out of yourself. So at some point you got to kind of take a step back and do something different, maybe change up the system, for a week and then come back and maybe you're closer to 91%, because we're never going to be 100%, but just kind of the recovery aspect, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the nutrition. So just always kind of adapting that and continuing to dial that in, and just doing what feels good, because at the end of the day, you got to feel good when you're going to competition. Not too good, but you got to be fresh to a certain extent.
What do you mean not too good? You said you got to feel good when you go into competition, but not too good.
Well, you don't want to feel too good, because if you feel really good, then you're probably not training enough or hard enough, because you can go into competition, your weight's good, everything's good, your technique feels good, but you're not really, I want to say, grinding. So you get that competition, that first match you feel good, and that second match you feel not so good. So you have to have a certain amount of what's the word? Not conditioning, but just hardness to you. You got to feel good, but you still got to stay hard, and your body has to be hard, and your mind has to be hard. Because to put 3 or 4 or 5 matches together in a tournament, that takes a lot of intestinal fortitude. So you got to feel good, but you don't want to feel good to the point where you're letting your body relax too much and you're not hard. Because you got to be hard to get through 4 or 5 hard matches. So that's kind of you walk in that line. There's always a balance. You got to have one foot in order and one foot in chaos. And you got to walk that line. And if you're too much in order, then things aren't going to go good. And so for me in my career, I've always had 2 feet in chaos. So the more chaotic it was, kind of the more I fed off it. But the amount of stress that puts on your body is not good. So you got to have one foot on both sides of that line and just straddle that line.
All right. Kyle, did you say you had a follow-up?
I do. With the Olympic trials and you making an Olympic team at 57 kilos, 2 of the biggest names were not in there, Nick Siriano and Spencer Lee. Do you pay attention to that? And if you do, how do you compartmentalize their absence in your weight bracket?
I don't pay too much attention to it, because at the end of the day, the best guys were there. And that's not a slight to anybody, but I wrestled whoever was there and whoever showed up, and that's that. People can make people are always going to make reasons why I'm on the team and I shouldn't be on the team, because Suriano wasn't there. I was supposed to wrestle him second round, blah blah blah. And Spencer Lee, he's the greatest thing since Jesus Christ, and he wasn't there, so blah blah blah. But you know what? Whatever. They weren't there, and if they were, I would have wrestled and I would have beat them. I really believe that, and a lot of people don't believe that. But I'm at the height of my game, and there's nobody that's going to beat me.
Fair enough. So it's been just about a year or so, give or take, right, that you made the move out to Pennsylvania. What areas of and you mentioned nutrition and maybe recovery, but I guess what areas wrestling wise do you think you've improved upon the most?
I think just wrestling through all positions. I kind of mentioned in my post match interview, but people look at my matches and they say, well, Gilman hasn't developed at all. He's just still doing the same thing: underhook, driving, single legs. But there's a lot of things. I was getting 2-point takedowns. That's huge. That's really big. It was the difference in that match, the second match against Vito. 2-point takedown was the difference. So I think that's more of a tactical thing, but it's also a technical thing. So there are other areas, I can go down the list that didn't necessarily show in my wrestling, but just little things, just like playing around in positions and just being more comfortable in positions that I wasn't comfortable in before. I'm more comfortable going to the legs because I know that if I end up in a scramble, that I have certain things that I can go to when things kind of get turned upside down, and I feel comfortable. Once I get to that safe spot, then I'm good. So just being more comfortable in the scramble and flurries has given me more confidence to go to the legs. And yeah, I mean there are a lot of technical things that I can just rattle off, but I'm not going to, because people say, well, you wrestle the same, nothing's changed, but something's changed, right? I mean, the way I separated myself from some of these guys and took 2-0 matches and got a pin in the semis. I mean, something's obviously different, and it's really not. I'm going to take it a little different direction. It's not really the technical aspect of the wrestling that has changed the most for me, even though there are technical things I've been working on. It's just the mindset that I bring to not only wrestling but my everyday life. It's the way the coaches talk to us and Coach Kale talks to the team before practice. It really resonates with me. Just having gratitude and being grateful for everything, even the negative things, and being present. I think that was the biggest thing in this tournament was I was just present. There wasn't any. I mean, there was a certain amount of anxiety and nervousness, but the way you talk to yourself is huge. So instead of being nervous, I was spirited, like a horse. A horse before a race. They're kind of jittery and whatever. They just want to get out of that gate and run. So they're not really nervous. Those horses, maybe a little bit, but they're just spirited and they want to run. So that's kind of how I felt during that tournament, and just kind of taking a look around and just being grateful for the opportunity to compete. And it kind of freed my mind to compete the way I want to compete. And I just felt really free, and I kind of have been trying to do that in my everyday life too, just being grateful for everything and being present and not kind of trying to let go of a lot of things, like maybe the past, maybe some hate. I think I competed and lived with a lot of hate in my heart, and just kind of letting that go and having more love, especially for my enemy, because my enemy is going to bring out the best in me. They're going to come out and they're going to battle hard, and it's going to make me up my game, and so I'm grateful for that. So just having just a little bit different perspective has helped me a lot. And just the way that coaches talk to us is really resonating with me, and just really thankful for the opportunity just to be here and grow myself beyond the sport of wrestling and become a better person. Just become more my own person, really.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like you've always kind of been your own person. I don't know if outspoken is the right word, but definitely not. Doesn't seem like you've been afraid to speak your mind in the past, and but you feel even more so you're becoming a different person or your own person.
Yeah, I think this part of maturing. We're always changing and adapting, but I think the way I've changed in the last year has been good for me. Just beyond the sport of wrestling, my relationships with my parents, with my wife, with my dogs, with my friends or new friends, have been. It's just everything's just better, just with just a little change in perspective, and like I said, like just letting go of the past. And I think for a while, I was upholding this persona, this tough guy, bad guy, villain persona, and I still have that. I'm always going to have that a little bit, but it got maybe to the point where I was, a caricature of myself, as Coach Cody would say. And we all get to that point. It's our ego, and kind of trying to keep that ego in check, and instead of upholding that caricature, just be yourself.
Sure. Was and you went over a lot of things there, but was there anything first week, first month, first couple of days of practice, being around the guys, was there anything that jumped off the page to you as like different? And I don't know if like hard to accept and understand is right, but just different, and like, okay, wow, this is way different. We're going to go this way. We're going to take time to recover when maybe you didn't as much before, or I don't know.
I think there wasn't anything that was really hard, because I needed to change up the system. I needed to just get better at wrestling and become a better wrestler. And so I came here, and I wasn't going to fight anything. I was going to be bought in. I was also going to be myself and do the things that I know I need to do. But also I just bought in, whatever the coaches think that I need to do, I'm going to do it. Whatever we're working on, I'm going to work on. Just kind of something that's been huge for me is just, I said it before, but I'm like a renaissance in my wrestling career. I'm starting to love the sport of wrestling again, and that's something I haven't had in a long time, where I'm just like super excited about the sport and just the art of the sport. And so that's been really good for me. Something that was really kind of on my mind a lot when I first got here was I kind of look at wrestling as like a battle. It's very primitive. If you go to war in the ancient times and you lose your sword and your shield, you're essentially wrestling that guy. And that's how I viewed wrestling. It's just a battle, it's a war. And so this idea of like having fun with wrestling, I was having maybe not a hard time, but it was kind of conflicting ideologies in my brain. So I reached out to this guy. His name's Brad Nagel. He's a ex-Navy SEAL and more or less a mentor of mine a little bit. He maybe wouldn't see himself like that, but I was like, hey, I was kind of talking through it with him, like, hey, I have this dilemma. And he essentially said, my job as a Navy SEAL was to kill people, but I enjoyed it. I had fun doing that. And it was very enlightening for me. I was like, okay, well, my job is essentially to go out there and beat people up and throw them down and work them over, and I can get a lot of enjoyment. It doesn't mean just because it's physical and stop it, for cat.
It's all right.
Just because it's a battle and a war doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. So that really set my mind at ease. It's like I can still have fun doing this, and it's still a battle, but so it was kind of weird to try to explain, but that was like the turning point. And then, not that I wasn't bought in before, but after talking with him, I really was okay with having fun in a way.
Brad Nagel, is that what you said his name was?
Yeah.
How did you meet him? And sounds like a guy you just talked to. If you say he wouldn't necessarily consider himself a mentor, but somebody you're obviously maybe seeking experience or wisdom from.
Yeah, so he was in the Navy SEALs, and then he retired from the SEALs and came back to Iowa to get his degree. And then he would work out in the wrestling room because it was kind of like a good environment. He was a high-strung guy, used to the SEALs, which is also a very high-strung occupation, and he enjoyed the energy and the environment of the room, and I just kind of gravitated towards him because I'm a history major. I enjoy reading about war and that kind of stuff, and so I kind of pick his brain about different things, and he was just a guy that just kind of fires you up. You just kind of sit in the sauna with him and chat with him a little bit, and then he makes you want to go run through a wall. He's been through some things that are pretty unique, to say the least, and his perspective on life and warfare and combat, it kind of resonated with me for wrestling, and so we kind of hit it off that way.
Do you think your interest in war and combat stems from you being a wrestler, or vice versa?
I think they go hand in hand. Um, I never really viewed them like the sport as war until maybe I was in high school and I started to understand wrestling and war a little bit better. But I think just the way I was brought up, and my grandfather was in the military, my cousins, my cousin was in the military. Just I don't know. There's something very appealing about war to me. I mean, I'm not a soldier, but there's something appealing to read about it and just apply that to everyday life, because sometimes we think like we have things so hard and things are tough, and but it's all relative. You read some of these war stories, it's like, wow, like that's tough, and that guy got through it. So a lot of times when maybe I get hurt or I'm feeling sore or down or beat up or whatever, I just think, well, what if I had to get out of this trench and run across there and kill that guy? How would I do it? That kind of gets me through some of my hard times, quote unquote. Like maybe you get hurt and it's like, well, how am I gonna practice today, or how am I gonna wrestle this tournament? It's like, well, what if you had to scrap to save your own life and the guy next to you's life? Then it's like, all right, well, you figure it out pretty quick because you don't have a choice if it's a war. So we have the luxury of maybe recovering and take care of our bodies. But I always think about, like, what if I had to go do it right now? And having that historical context of battle and war kind of helps me through some of those situations, because tough times, it's all relative. People say, you're having a tough time. Let's take a step back and really look at the bigger picture here. Your time is really not that tough.
If I was in war, I'd probably want you somewhere not too far away.
I think a lot of people think that.
Why do you think that is?
Because I'm gonna do whatever it takes. I'm a selfless person, and I'll sacrifice myself for the guy next to me. That's just kind of how I roll. So whatever it takes to get my comrades out of the situation, I'm gonna do it. If that means sacrificing life and limb, that's what I'll do for my guys next to me.
Amen. Clement, I think Kyle, you said I had a couple questions.
I do. With being in Pennsylvania now, and you talked about having fun, what do you do to have fun in Pennsylvania? What's your outlets?
Well, there's not a lot to do here in Bellefonte, but no, one of my outlets is just spending time at home. It seems pretty boring, but I really enjoy just spending time at home with my wife and our animals. We have 2 dogs and a cat, 4 chickens that are laying hens, and we just got 6 new chicks. So hopefully they'll be laying here by August. So that's something I enjoy, just kind of working around the house, woodworking. I just started building another chicken coop, even though I don't know if I need another one, but it's just something I enjoy doing, is just working with my hands and building things. It's kind of funny, but I think of myself as an artist. I don't paint, I don't do sculptures, but wrestling is very much an art. Especially being here with Coach Kale, it's very much an art form. And so going beyond that, I enjoy cooking. Me and my wife enjoy to cook a lot together, and so that's very much an art form, to be able to put together a nice, healthy meal and just working with wood and crafting things, whether it's rough carpentry or I'll go down to my in-laws, and they kind of got a little workshop there and making some furniture. That's very much art too. So those are kind of things I like to do to kind of relax my mind and use my hands, because I grew up, working with my grandfather, and we were always doing something, whether it's pouring concrete or building retaining walls or fixing fences on a farm or feeding cows or whatever it was, so I was always using my hands and doing physical labor, and that's kind of like my out, is just kind of, that's what I enjoy as far as fun. Not a lot of people like it, but that's my thing. I do to have fun is kind of work and hang out and spend time with people I love.
Man, we heard the cat right there. Are you going to show us the cat if he's still there?
He's over laying in his little hammock. But actually, I think the wife's going to bring him over. He's a handful. We are not cat people, but this guy adopted us.
He adopted you.
His name's Penn.
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 In Pennsylvania.
No, funny story.
Okay.
So I don't know if people are familiar with cats. I definitely am not, even though I have one. But when they're very small kittens, it's hard to tell their gender. So we thought maybe he was a girl, and so my wife named him Penny. And so then we took him to the vet, and they said it's a boy. And so we're like, well, we can't call him Penny, and so we shortened up to Penn, which actually kind of works out because we're in Pennsylvania, and William Penn and Penn State and Nittany Lions, so it worked out.
All right, good deal. So you're talking about artistry, and you mentioned Coach Cale, and I feel like the easy question is Tom and Cale. What makes them different? But I want to know what are the most things that are most similar about Tom Brands and Cale Sanderson?
They want to win. I mean, that's pretty much the big thing. They're both competitors, and they're both very competitive, and they want to win. It's just how you get to that end point is the difference. Their philosophy that they obviously brought to the mat as competitors, the way they wrestled was very much different. The way they talk to the team and kind of get their team going, and how they run practice is very much different. But they're both high-level thinkers, and high-level thinkers have a lot in common as far as like the mentality is the same, I would say, in a way. They're both competitive. They both want to win. The difference is how they get the job done is the big difference. So, they're both winners too. Coach Cale a little bit more than Tom, but I don't know.
Why would you say more? Coach Cale more than Tom?
I mean, look at their coaching careers. I think that says enough.
He's done a lot of winning, no doubt. In the room, right? I know I saw you. I'm curious who you train with, who you like to train with the most. I know I saw you shouting out Nick Lee for Hodge. Nick Lee went on a tear at the trials, especially on the backside. But who are your, I guess, main training partners or guys you roll with the most?
I roll with just about anybody. Obviously, Nick Lee, I like rolling with him a lot. Roman, Zane, once in a while when I'm feeling pretty froggy and good. Zane's big and strong and intense. But one of my go-to guys, especially like when I'm getting down to weight or just need to roll around or get a good feel, is Jordan Conway. And he doesn't really get any credit, but he's probably the best guy, one of the best guys in the room if you want to just get a good feel and a good scrap and just he's a feel-good guy. So he'll do – and he's a team player. He'll do whatever you need, no matter what that is. If that means me hitting 100 high crotches on him at the end of practice, he'll do it, and without question. And he's just he's an amazing person and a great wrestler, and give him a shout-out because he's going to go over to Tokyo with me.
And
he's a guy that is behind the scenes that does a lot, but doesn't get a lot of credit for it. So he's like my go-to guy.
Was it a no-brainer to bring him as your training partner?
Yeah, no-brainer. He helped me get ready for this tournament, and he's just a very selfless guy, and he's got all the right feels, and he's humble, and he'll just do whatever I need him to do, and I'm very, very grateful for that.
Sure.
I think he's going to be excited to go too. So.
Wrestling aside, or is it just wrestling? Aside from wrestling, is there anything that excites you about the Olympic experience, whatever that may be, from an interview like this to actually wrestling, or is it, man, it's the wrestling, that's what it is? Seeing Tokyo, I don't know.
I think that there's definitely more to it than wrestling. It is the Olympic Games. I think that the job is to wrestle and go out there and win and bring home gold. But I think that you gotta enjoy the experience too. I think that if you're too wound tight, just worrying about wrestling the whole time, you might get a little bit too much in your head and go a little stir crazy because there's going to be a lot going on. And I think that just embracing the experience and just being present, I think I'm really going to enjoy it. Just being, I mean, I have the chance to go to Japan. That's somewhere I've never been or really would go to outside of the Olympic Games. So it's kind of the great thing about wrestling is we get to go to places where we never would have the opportunity to go to or never probably would go to if it was just a vacation. So I'm really excited to experience the culture. You know, I have a lot of respect for the Japanese people and the culture, even though I might have said something that was insensitive that I didn't know was insensitive back in 17. But I mean, I have a lot of respect for their culture. It's very diligent in a lot of ways. It's a lot like my grandmother's German, and so it's a very in a weird way. It's kind of like Germany of the Far East. So I'm excited to experience it.
Sure. I think, Kyle, did you say you had another question?
Yeah, with the World Championships coming right after the Olympic Games, do you have a
Thomas, appears that we've lost Klingman. I might be lost. I'm certainly lost. But I mean, whether or not, technically on the line. On the line? Thomas?
Yeah, we got disconnected.
Yeah. My producer said his machine is locked up. Whatever that means. I don't know. I don't know if we're live and people are watching or if I'm just talking to you.
Guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Let me see here. Be on. All right, we can keep going. We left off talking about Japan.
Yeah. So essentially, I'm excited to visit and experience the culture and along with that, get the job done. But this is where we're at, the World Championships.
Oh yeah.
So, just the Olympic Games is first, and that's a big event, and that's what we're getting ready for. So, just take care of business and then reevaluate afterwards. I think that's all we can do. Start thinking too far ahead, we might get ourselves in trouble.
Sure. You said Japan's not a place I would normally go, or I would want to go. I'm probably on vacation. If you had, let's just hypothetical word. You go win the Olympics. You go to Worlds and you win. It's like time for a vacation. Anywhere in the world you want. And you got a big bag of money from the Living the Dream Fund. Where are you going?
Germany.
I don't know why I thought you were going to say that. Tell me why.
Well, that's where my grandmother's from. So my wife has not been to Germany yet, so I'd like to take her there and just experience the culture and show her a little bit about what Germany's like. And in university, I did a lot of research and studying in the 19th century, Europe and then Germany in particular. So it's just, I'm fond of it just because it's my heritage, but also I really, really enjoy and appreciate the culture, and I always long to get back.
All right, fair enough. That's where they had the acclimation camp two or three times, right?
Yeah, I think all three times. I was there twice in Ramstein.
Ramstein, yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of different because you're on a U.S. military base, and it's like America in the middle of Germany. But you get off the base, it's just a couple little villages around there. It's fun to kind of get out and about.
Sure. Have you? And I remember you told a wild story about going to, I believe it was like Makhachkala or the Caucasus area in Russia. Have you gone and trained internationally since then? I know it's the lockdown, so maybe I made tough.
No, I haven't. So that was the last time. So I think that was in October of last year, and then COVID kind of started a year ago. So, but hopefully after the Olympics and after the Worlds, depending on what we decide there, I can get a few of the guys from the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, and we'll go out to Ossetia and stay at the academy and train for for a couple weeks, because actually the one lady that runs the academy there, she sent me a message on Instagram and said congratulations and whatnot. And then I said, essentially, I can't wait to get back and train. And she said, whenever, just let me know. You're always welcome. So that was kind of nice.
Heck yeah, that sounds awesome, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I guess, Instagram or social media, right? Forever you weren't on it. Boom, you decided, you pulled the trigger, you got yourself a social media account. Best and worst things about social media from your perspective, and maybe that impact your life.
We'll start with positive. There's a lot of connections that you can make on social media, just, business-wise, kind of, because everything's on the internet now. You maybe get connected with a company and you post their things and you get some money for it, and that's cool. I like that. And I kind of like keeping up with my foreign friends, even though a lot of them don't speak English and I don't speak Russian or Ossetian or Dagestan. It's nice to be able to stay connected with those people, because without social media, it would be really hard. So I follow a lot of those guys on Instagram and just seeing what they're up to. They're going to training camp or they're in Moscow or whatever they're doing. It's kind of nice, and I see they win a tournament, they do well, send a little message. So that's nice to stay connected with your foreign friends, and it would be really, really hard to stay connected any other way. But the negative is it can be a huge distraction. There's always a lot, like Twitter. I don't even really get on Twitter anymore. I do once in a while, just send out a tweet when I get all fired up. But it's so negative, I feel like, Twitter, because you post something, no matter what it is, you're going to have all these trolls that don't even have their name or their picture, and they're just saying negative, mean things. It's just and then you get, I'm like this, I'll just read every single negative thing. And so I try to stay off Twitter because it's so negative. But Instagram's kind of negative in a different way, where I feel like if I post something on Instagram, everything's positive. There will be the one yahoo that says you suck or whatever. But for the most part, it's very positive feedback, which is it's nice feeling. But then you're on your feed, and I just find myself just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and it's just mindless. And I just feel man, I'm really wasting my time. So sometimes I'll just leading up to the trials, my wife and I deleted all the Instagram and social media just to kind of be more present and all right, well, this is to give us more time to read and just spend time together and focus on the task at hand. And that was really helpful. But then obviously right after we got back on, and I think we probably should delete it soon.
Fair enough. Cal, do you have another one?
I do. What makes a good cup of coffee?
It starts with good fresh beans. That's the start. And then you got to get them, whole bean, and then you grind them yourself. And I prefer a pour over. Pour over is a little intimidating for people, but it's like anything. You just got to do it. And practice makes perfect. And not that I'm perfect at it, but you get the hang of it. And that's what I recommend, is getting fresh beans. And a lot of if you're around a college town or in Austin, I'm sure there's some roasteries or places where they ship in the beans pretty fresh. And so get them whole bean and grind them at home and making them from there. Also, the ratios are important, but the number one thing is fresh beans.
Thomas,
you're not
coffee shops in Austin. Go ahead. I just there's a million coffee
shops.
You're
not into the latte type of drinks and all the added stuff. Is it got to be straight?
Well, I'm into that stuff too. I like a nice latte every once in a while, but for the appreciation of coffee and let's say the art of it, you got to just go with a straight pour over. If you really want to taste the different flavors, which sounds weird because people are all coffee tastes the same, and I beg to differ. But if you get go to a nice coffee shop and you get a lot the lightest roast they have, then you're going to get a lot more fruity type flavors, and you're definitely going to tell the difference between your normal dark roast or something you get from the gas station or something like that.
And maybe the last thing I got, we've been going for a while now, but I caught, I don't know if it's on Twitter, Instagram, or both, but an NCAA watch party, right? You and Bo and Nolf and a few other people, and you're fired up as usual. But watching the Penn State guys, and understandably, right? Was it, and maybe there were some Penn State versus Iowa matches or whatever, but is it weird at all watching, and I don't know about rooting against Iowa, but rooting for Penn State when maybe they're wrestling an Iowa guy?
Yeah, it definitely was a little weird. I think it was less weird when they wrestled each other, but like when Iowa was wrestling other schools, there's always like that competitive aspect in your mind where it's like, well, in order for us to like pull us out as a team, meaning Penn State, this guy maybe should drop this match. But I cheered for all the Iowa guys, when they were wrestling other teams, just because I spent a lot of time with those guys, train with them, and I know them pretty well. But as far as cheering for the Penn State guys, it was really easy because they took me in and just accepted me right now. Like, first day I got here, boom, part of the team. No questions asked. And they really took me in, and it was just something that they didn't have to do. The coaches didn't have to do that. The team didn't have to do that. So just the love I felt immediately, I just was so grateful and thankful for that. And just anything I could do to reciprocate that and help them out, and just spending time just wrestling with these guys like Roman, we really bonded over this last year, just training together, and me and him talk a lot just as far as like mentality, and I was always on him, saying like he's so good, and you just got to go out there and just wrestle like you know how to do, because if he wrestles me or wrestles anybody else in the nation the way he wrestles me, like there's no reason why anybody should be able to beat him or even be close to him. Like, he should have got bonus points every match except for the finals. That's how good he is. And he shows. When he goes offense, he scores every single time. So, in a way, it was weird, but at the same time, it wasn't, just because, they're my family now. It's you develop and you move on, and this is the next chapter of my life, and I'm all in. I'm all in for these guys, just like they're all in for me. So I got fired. I got real fired up for these guys.
I saw it. And it's probably too soon to ask, right? But I think you said you're only 25. Is 2024 on your radar?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But like I said, it's just one thing at a time. One year at a time. And in 2024, God willing, something could happen and my path could change. He might have a different plan for me, but. If 2024 isn't his plan, then that's what we're going to do.
If it's not, I don't know if that club that Kyle and I are doing is going to even ever start or take off. So they're waiting for a club to start in Austin. Just, weather's great, and love to have you down here.
Yeah, my wife likes the nice weather down there, so that could work.
All right, cool, man. Well, shoot, it's been fun catching up. I'm sure I'll run into you again at some point before you guys head over to Tokyo. But you got anything else for us before we let you get on, Thomas?
I don't. I appreciate the time and the conversation. It was good. I always enjoy it.
Always is. Thanks so much, man, and have a great day, Thomas. Good luck in Tokyo.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right, that's gonna do it. Good talk, wouldn't you say, Kyle?
It was. Always get good information from Thomas Gilman. Seems forthright and wants to talk honestly and openly, so I appreciated that. And I'm just looking forward to the club that we're going to start here in the coming years.
Yeah, we'll call it the Killbad Club. Awesome.
Get that on the spot. That's good.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Enough with the dumb jokes, bad jokes. That's going to do it. Today's show is done. We'll be back tomorrow with Jenna Burkett. Same guys, same time, same place. We'll see you later. Thanks.